So on the 29th of February 2024, a consultation began to discuss whether the maximum continuous power of e-bikes should be doubled from 250 watts to 500 watts, and also if throttles that work up to 15.5 miles per hour should work without the need for type approval. And after a lengthy consultation, we got rejected. In this video, we'll discuss why the proposals got rejected, but also why it doesn't really matter at all. Trust me, you'll want to listen to this. So really quickly, let's remind ourselves of the current laws that e-bikes or electrically assisted pedal cycles, EAPCs for short, must adhere to. The cycle has got to be fitted with pedals that are capable of propelling it. The maximum continuous rated power of the electric motor must not exceed 250 watts. Electrical assistance must cut off when the vehicle reaches 15.5 miles per hour or 25 kilometers per hour. An EAPC that complies with the above is not considered to be a motor vehicle within the meaning of the Road Traffic Regulation Act 1984 and the Road Traffic Act of 1988. E-bikes, though, cannot be ridden by anyone under the age of 14. EAPCs are treated the same as pedal cycles in terms of what infrastructure they may use and can therefore use cycle lanes, tracks and other cycle facilities. EAPCs that provide electrical assistance without the use of pedals are usually known as twist and go e-cycles. Vehicles with throttle assistance above 3.73 miles per hour, 6 kilometers per hour, require type approval. And now the thing is, there's even a rationale on the government website. They want to make EAPCs a more attractive and viable travel option for more people. They state that increasing the power of EAPCs to 500 watts would make it easier for cyclists using EAPCs to ride up hills and gradients. This has the potential to enable more people to cycle, for example, if they live or work in hilly terrain or when they're less physically fit. This is good stuff. EAPCs with 500 watts could be valuable for e-cargo bikes. Allowing throttle assistance up to 15.5 miles per hour could help make e-bikes more accessible. Stakeholders have identified how this could enable some disabled people to use EAPCs as a mobility aid and give them greater choice for their personal transport. And they say various other things about why it might be good to use e-bikes. And then they give us some potential pitfalls, which is okay because we want it to be balanced. We don't want it just to be biased one way or the other. And some of these potential pitfalls include increasing the power of e-cargo bikes would enable them to carry heavier loads, which would increase the potential severity of injury caused to pedestrians and cyclists in collisions. Greater usage of e-cargo bikes could also increase the number of collisions, but this could be mitigated if it reduces other forms of freight traffic. I like that they include a counter-argument for the counter-argument. And remember, this is a government website. There may be greater safety risks where more powerful or heavier EAPCs interact with other road users, particularly where they are ridden on shared use cycle tracks alongside pedestrians and are used illegally on the pavement. More powerful EAPCs will be able to accelerate more quickly and travel up hills and gradients at faster speeds. This could lead to EAPCs overtaking pedal cycles and other road users more frequently. But who are the other road users in this situation? Like people trying to get uphill on a push scooter. What kind of idiot would do that? Oh, my left foot's manked up because of gout. Now this bit's an interesting bit. They say increasing the power limit of the EAPCs will increase their uncapped speed if they are tampered with so that electrical assistance does not cut off at 15.5 miles per hour as required. This would increase road safety risks significantly, including from collisions. Now here's the bit. Riding EAPCs that have been tampered with in this way is illegal, and police forces are able to enforce this. Now that's an interesting point. Riding EAPCs that have been tampered with is illegal. So untampered e-bikes that could go faster than 15.5 is legal. I like this wording because, of course, 250 watt motors can easily push you faster than 15.5 miles per hour, and many mopeds that are meant to go 30 can easily go over 50. Are there any moped YouTubers just happening to listen to this video? Do you get people moaning at you if you ride a moped over 40 miles per hour? I bet not as much as e-bikers get moaned at when we go over 20 miles per hour, but I could be wrong. Increasing throttle assistance may reduce the health benefits from pedaling. But I don't think me ghost pedaling is that much more beneficial than me not pedaling at all. Like, you're still engaging your core, just keeping balance on a bike, which is kind of beneficial anyway. And yes, my legs are moving, but they're not really doing that much. But again, I'll talk about all of this when we discuss why the proposals being rejected doesn't really matter at all. And finally, they talk about an increased risk of battery fires. Yeah, only because there'll be more batteries if it becomes more popular, but they could become more popular at any moment anyway. Selena Gomez might ride one on Instagram. Selena, if you want to try a cheap Chinese e-bike, just give me a call. So that brings us to today, and the plans have been shelved. I can't moan too much since I didn't respond. I could have tried to have my say. I could have made videos whilst the consultation was going on, telling people to respond and why we need it, but I didn't, because the possible changes didn't really excite me all that much, and I had way too many bikes to review and life to live. So why did it get rejected? Well, stakeholders responded. By the way, stakeholders are just people who literally hold a stake, some kind of interest in the topic. It might be business related, it might not. Cycling UK felt that if the changes were made, then more people would be getting knocked down and hurt on pavements. People obviously moaned about battery fires, and some pro e-bike stakeholders actually voted against it because they were worried that down the line, if e-bikes have throttles and more power, then the government might decide to change e-bikes into a new category of vehicle in between push bikes and mopeds. Maybe some people would have to start paying insurance, undergo compulsory training, which by the way I wouldn't be totally against, especially for anyone without a driver's license, but that's another video. Maybe this was the government's plan all along. The proposals on the website did seem quite balanced and maybe even in favour of the changes. Maybe some people have dodged a bullet. But anyway, let's move on to the why, and more specifically why it doesn't really matter. This is a 250 watt motor. How do I know? Because of its size? Nope. Look at it, it's huge, but maybe not as big as this 250 watt motor. I know it's a 250 watt motor because it's been rated as 250 watts by the manufacturer of the motor. And that's why the proposed increase to 500 watts is absolutely pointless. And it doesn't matter at all that it got rejected. This motor can blatantly handle more than 250 watts continuous power, but Bafang didn't have to submit the motor to get it tested by some kind of regulator. They would have tested it at 250 watts long enough to see that it didn't burn out, and then they gave it a 250 watt rating. If they tested it at 500, 750, maybe 1000, they might find it can handle those wattages too. Now, there are bikes with tiny motors that would struggle with more power. If the government allowed 500 watts, would those bikes stop being made? No, just like e-scooters, which are illegal, so have no regulation, you can get 250 watt, 350 watt, 500 watt, 1000 watts and more, way more. That is mad. And it'll be the same with e-bikes. This e-bike right now is close to 2 grand, but it's known as a 250 watt bike. If the law was to change, then they'd probably just call it a 500 watt bike. It'd be the exact same bike, but it could even end up being more expensive. But that's besides the point. The point is that this bike wouldn't change at all. All the more powerful e-bikes that have been rated at 250 watts would just magically become 500 watts. Nothing on the bike would change, only the web page where it's sold, where they changed 250 to 500. The weight wouldn't increase, the amount of riders on the pavement wouldn't increase, battery fires wouldn't increase, everything would stay the same, simply because the more powerful e-bikes that would become 500 watts would be exactly the same. So as a buyer, you don't need to look at the power rating anymore because it will always say 250 watts. Brands just don't bother saying their bikes are 750 watts or other numbers anymore. Some do, but over the past year, I've definitely noticed the number of bikes saying 500 watts or 1000 watts decreasing. Now they just write 250 watts, but then say the motor is high torque. So if you need a cargo bike or a bike that gets you up hills, just check the torque numbers the brands give you. And then just watch some reviews from the YouTubers that have some kind of torque metric, some way of comparing how good bikes go up hills, the ones that won't lie to you just to make sales and get free e-bikes. But the power part was only half of the proposals. The throttle bit, now I am a bit miffed about that. I could go into why not allowing a throttle up to 15.5 is a pointless rule, but I've done a whole video on it, so I won't go into that now, but do check out that video at the end if you want a bit more discussion. I'll link a playlist to the other e-bike discussion videos, including the throttle video at the end. There's so much to talk about, and it's great hearing all the different opinions. Apart from, if you want a throttle, buy a moped. No offense, that's not an opinion, that's just a stupid thing to say. But one of the problems stakeholders had with the throttle is that if cyclists aren't pedaling, then it blurs the lines between bicycle and moped. Oh my God, look, she's on a moped. How dare she be on a moped? Oh no, it's an e-bike. No, it's okay everyone, it's an e-bike.
Wait a minute!
But again, these worries were from people who liked e-bikes and were worried that the throttle would also lead to stricter regulations of e-bikes. Obviously, I'd love for all of you to throw in your 2 pence and have your say on the matter, but it does appear that the plans weren't shelved due to some government conspiracy because they want more people in cars to get more road tax. It seems that it got rejected because people who actually like e-bikes were worried it would become more complicated to own one. What do you think? So does it matter that the throttle got shelved too? Well, yes, it does a bit, but not in theory. Both the 500 watt change and the throttle change lost out by getting just under 50% of the vote, so it was pretty close. But I would argue that the main reason you'd want a throttle is to help you pull away. Secondary reasons would be to get an extra burst of speed in tight situations. Say you're about to be hit by a car, or if you actually want to go slow, since the throttle allows you to go slower. You could use the throttle to slowly weave around obstacles at a slow speed. These things can all be done legally if e-bike companies took the time to make their throttle work like that. Like what? Well, like this. This is how my ideal throttle would work. Firstly, no matter which pedal assist level you're in, the throttle should be as powerful as pedal assist 5, giving all available power. That way, if you're in pedal assist 1 and need to quickly avoid something, you can use the throttle. You're still pedaling, but the throttle overrides pedal assist 1 and gives you instant pedal assist 5. Conversely, if you're in pedal assist 5 with a standard sensor on an e-bike known as a cadence sensor, you're going to be getting 100% of the power all the time when you're pedaling. You should be able to reduce that power with a slight twist of the throttle. Now remember, throttles are graduated, so a slight twist gives you a tiny bit of power. Again, you'd still be pedaling, so the throttle can be used. Now, the pulling away thing I mentioned quite a lot on this channel. It can be hard to pull away if you're at the lights or a roundabout, if you're going up a hill, and even on the flat it can be difficult if you're in the wrong gear, especially because cadence sensors don't kick in straight away. You've got to get the bike going on your own. So remember, throttles are allowed to get you up to about 4 miles per hour. So at the lights, you should be able to use the throttle, get the maximum amount of power from that throttle, and then the throttle only need cut out if the rider isn't pedaling, because as long as the rider's pedaling, then it's all right to have the throttle working, and if they're not pedaling, then the power cuts out. How about the older or less mobile people who wanted a throttle to help them ride? Well, I think the above configuration will be so much better than how most fully legal e-bikes work now. Yes, your legs will have to move, but they won't be doing much work, just going through the motions. And maybe that bit of movement will be beneficial. Maybe it won't be perfect for everyone, but the vast majority of people who are fit enough to be on a throttled bike in the first place, I think they'd be just fine. And that's it. It doesn't matter at all that the proposals weren't passed, and maybe the cycle groups were right. Maybe it does keep e-bikes safe from extra government regulation. Now we just need e-bike brands to start making their throttles smarter. If you enjoyed that video, do hit that thumbs up button, but if you didn't, then feel free to thumb us down, but as always, leave a comment to let us know how I could improve. Thank you for watching until the end, and if you want a bit more e-bike discussion, do check out the playlist that is on the screen right now with extra e-bike discussion, including why the throttle law is dangerous and stupid, and why the maximum power law is actually totally pointless. Kind of covered it a bit in this video, but there's even more reasons why. So check that out. Thank you for the viewers of the panorama video who let me know that these proposals had been scrapped. Without you, I wouldn't have made the video. And until next time, thanks for watching. Ride safe. Blah 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 blah. Blah 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 blah.